Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, this is my live show here again on Sunday. We're back here. How we are doing? How was the weekend? Hope your weekend was good. Um, Sorry, we're starting a bit late today. I'm also trying to get it all set up on Facebook. So please give me a minute. But I hope we're good. If you're here with me, say hi. Let me know those who are here watching at the moment. It would be nice to know. Yes, technology at its best. Facebook is giving me a bit of a challenge this evening, but I'm sure we will get it fixed as soon as possible. And today we're going to be looking at I'm holding on. I am holding on. I'm holding on. I'm holding on. And I'm sure some of you will be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, if you've been following my live shows that I've done for the last two times, I'm sure you'll be able to guess maybe what we're about to talk about tonight. I'm still trying to set up my Facebook, but I think it will be up very soon. Okay, okay. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. Good. So welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight, or maybe you're going to be watching this later on in the week or in the month, whenever it is you come across this video. Thank you for spending a few moments to listen to what we have to share tonight. And tonight, like I said, we'll be talking about I'm holding on. So, what is it about holding on? What are you holding on to? Or what could you possibly be holding on to that may be costing you in some other areas of your life? Or what is it that you're holding on to that you think this is what I need? This is the best option for me right now. This is what I need to do, but it may not be serving you. So sometimes we think that we are holding on to our relationships. We think we are holding on to certain friendships. We think we are holding on to, certain connections and networks that we've made, maybe at the workplace, maybe in our intimate relationships, maybe in in our friendships, and we just think that no, I can't let this go. I remember there was a season of my life where I had to delete certain numbers off my phone and cut off certain friendships because I realized that if I held on to those friendships, I was not going to move forward. And it's not because these people were bad people in and of themselves, but they their path just didn't align with mine. Um, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, holding on to those friendships was going to hinder me. Think about how you're trying to climb up a mountain, for example, and yes, you have a knapsack on your bag, and maybe in your knapsack you have a rope for your climbing, you have maybe an extra pair of shoes, you have a flask of water, you have some food or some, fruits to snack on. And then along the way, you now decide to start putting in some stones for whatever reason. Maybe you just feel like, oh, this stone really looks different and unique and it looks beautiful. And then you put it into your bag and you keep finding these stones that look so nice and gorgeous. And you're like, wow, I just can't, go by without having this. You're not likely to find it somewhere else. And you keep putting them into your bag. What do you think would happen to your journey up the mountain? Yes, I'm sure you're having the same answer that I have in my mind. You're not likely going to make it. You're not likely going to make it to the top. At least with the stones in your bag, you're not going to make it to the top. And without wanting to compare people to stones, the analogy is that sometimes we think, oh, these are beautiful people, they have, great qualities, these guys are all wonderful people, and, I appreciate them. They've been, great to me over the years, and they might be true. But then you've also realized that the connection has maybe dwindled over the months or over the weeks. Maybe you realize that, oh, you're moving on to a new phase, and you realize every time you discuss it with these people or anytime there's a semblance of difference that may want to happen for you, or these people they're not happy, maybe they want to stop you from achieving that thing you want to achieve, or whatever it is, that may just look like these people, or these situations or these things should not be in your life at the moment because you need to be able to move forward. And that's some of the things that we'll be looking at tonight. Because sometimes we think we're holding on to them, but then we realize that when we really look at it, we realize that we may not just be holding on to those people or those things or those situations or those things that look like, oh, this is what it is. There might be more to it than what we're actually, looking at. So let's look at some of the things that can cause us to be holding on to relationships, or holding on to friendships, even when we realize that they're no longer serving us. The first thing might be, the fear of being alone. And I know that this is something that no matter the age, right from when we were young all the way to when we are old, people struggle with being alone. And it can be very daunting. It can be very scary. Sometimes you just don't, you're like, no, I just don't want to be here alone. I don't want to feel like I don't have anybody in my space. I don't want to feel like um, I'm all alone on this journey. And sometimes, the journeys that we are going on requires solitude. Of course, it's different for everybody, but sometimes these journeys requires solitude. And research has shown in attachment psychology that people who have an anxious attachment style, which means that they always feel like they need to have somebody in their space. They always feel like they have to be in a relationship. They always feel like, oh, I must have this person that is my friend. I must have this person that I always have to call on. They often suffer from fear abandonment so deeply that their brains begin to associate being alone with emotional danger. So for them, it has gone beyond, for some people, it has gone beyond just not wanting to be alone. But because they have felt like that for so long, it now feels like emotional danger. So, of course, your brain is screaming, danger, danger, danger. And one of the things about our minds is that our minds always wants to protect us. So when your brain begins to think danger, of course, it's going to go into protection mode and try to save you. And one of the ways that it will do that is to then always find people that you can attach yourself to, which in the end doesn't help because you might then get into unhealthy attachments. You now become, you reduce your self-worth and your self-esteem because you feel like, oh, I need to be with this person. I need to be connected to someone. I need to be connected to this person. And sometimes it can feel like a burden to the person that you are so anxiously attached to. It may feel like a burden, and they might not tell you, you know, but it may become unhealthy. You begin to settle for crumbs instead of actually going for the real bread. And, your identity becomes relationship dependent. So who you are is now dependent on who you can be with at the time. And all of this is screaming danger, but you have now gone into sort of like a mode of, protecting yourself from this. And the only way to protect yourself is to continue to find that person that you can attach yourself to. So what are the tips that you could do? I want to give one practical step that can help whoever it is that is listening to me out there and you say, oh yes, I identify with this, I identify with, always wanting to attach myself to someone. Or even in my current relationship, there's this anxious attachment that I keep bringing up because if my partner is not around me, I feel anxious. Or if we are apart for a long period of time, then it becomes a challenge. Or whatever it may be that looks like you are afraid of being alone, or you end one relationship today and in the next 1 month you're already thinking about how to get into another relationship. You haven't dealt with whatever it is that may have gone wrong or even gone right in the first relationship, to assess it, to look at it, to say, okay, what happened here? What can I do different in the next relationship? And sometimes this takes time. But if you don't spend the time looking at it and evaluating the situation and just thinking that you need to jump right next into the next relationship that is going to be available, you're going to carry a lot of baggage from that first relationship into the next. And of course, you know that that will lead to a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, both for yourself and the person that you're going to meet. So you want to be able to build on your own identity outside your relationships. You want to be able to build on who you are and the things that you want to do. Remember when I started talking and I spoke about how um, me realizing at a point in time in my life that I needed to, cut some people out of my life, cut some people out of my friendship zone, and actually bring some people in. It started with me actually knowing that I wanted to go somewhere. I had a purpose, I had a goal, I needed to achieve certain things. So again, it always goes back to us. It always goes back to what is it that I want to do at this point in time, and who are the people around me that can help me or not help me to get to where I want to go. So you need to stop equating loneliness with failure, because being single is not proof that you are unloved. And we've talked about this whole being single thing and the 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 blessing that comes with that season of your life, because every season carries its own blessings and the things that can help us to go through those seasons. So if you're single, it's not that you're unloved. It might just be a phase, that you're in, and one that you need to be able to take on and embrace and do well with. So I want to give one practical step today on how, if you're saying, oh yes, I feel like I don't need to, I have this fear of being alone, I have this fear of not being in a relationship, I have this fear of, I have to be attached to somebody for whatever reason. Spend 30 minutes alone. Can be any day of the week, this week. Spend 30 minutes alone without social media, without texting anyone, and just get a book and get a journal and write, who am I when nobody's validating me? Write whatever it is that comes to you. 30 minutes, and write it with a pen and paper, not on your phone or on your tablet, because there's a connection that happens between our hands and our brain when we write things down that helps it to stay even better in our minds and in our hearts. So that's one practical step I will give today for anybody who says, I fear being alone. I fear being without, I fear not being in a relationship. I fear not having been able to attach myself to anyone. And I just want to give you this practical step and do this and find a way to, yes, and find a way to put down this into a journal, 30 minutes alone, without social media, without texting anyone, just all on your own, all by yourself, 30 minutes. If you're strong enough, you can extend it to 45 minutes, but I think 30 minutes is fine. And, just don't do it one time. So this is something that I want you to do like every day this week. And just take that 30 minutes to write out in your journal about who you are when nobody is validating you. Who are you when nobody is saying, oh, you are the best, or nobody is there to praise you, or nobody is there to give you accolades, or nobody is there to even bring you down. 30 minutes, write into your journal. Now, what is some other things that people might be holding on to? Trauma bonds. And I know that this sounds like, what is trauma bonds? Last show, that which was last week Wednesday, we talked about, you remember, trauma and its triggers. And we talked about how traumas affect us as persons. So what is trauma bonding? Trauma bonding happens when emotional pain and affection become psychologically linked. So two people have gone through a traumatic experience, and somehow that traumatic experience seems to be related. But then they also like each other. And then they find that the emotional pain and the intermittent affection, which means it's not like it is deep enough to really form a good and healthy relationship. But there's some affection that the pain has brought them together. The emotional pain that they were dealing with has brought these two people together to form some form of, superficial affection for themselves. And then it forms a psychological link. And the brain begins craving that occasional good moment after periods of pain. So, and the way our brain works is, the messages that it sends to us, the things that it says, it just keeps giving you that message of, oh, craving good moments. after you have periods of pain, creating addictive emotional cycles similar to, what we'll call the dopamine reward patterns. So, and this causes emotional confusion because today you're feeling pain, tomorrow you're feeling affection. Today you feel linked to this person, tomorrow you feel like, oh no, I'm not supposed to be with this person. And so you're you're dilly-dallying, you're up today, you're down tomorrow. There's no consistency with your emotion. And of course, I know that as human beings, we face situations, we face experiences that cause us to change and become, different, and exhibit different characters or emotions throughout the day. But that's not something that is the norm. That's sort of like an exception. The norm is to have some form of emotional stability for wholesomeness, for wholesome relationships. And, because of this emotional confusion, you're up today, down tomorrow, sometimes it can bring about toxic behavior. Sometimes you find yourself being in unhealthy relationships, but you just stay there. You can't let go of it. You just want to remain there because there's confusion. You don't know what you want to do because there's this pain that you haven't dealt with. But then you can see that the pain has brought about some affection with somebody else. And, those feel good moments, you enjoy them and you don't want to let go. You don't want to you just want to hold on to that and tell yourself that, look, if this is what I'm going to get, then let me hold on to it. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to um, do something different. I don't want to heal from this pain and, even give it any form of attention, because you feel like if you do, then these feel good moments may disappear. And truth be told, they may disappear because it's temporary feel good moments. It's really not genuine and wholesome and real. They may disappear, but guess what? The moment you heal from that pain, then you can get into a more wholesome relationship. And then you can also now have more true good moments, and experience true feelings of excitement and joy and peace and love and kindness in your relationship. Again, guys, I know that we're all human beings, and so nobody's perfect. We're not talking perfection here, we're talking growth. Remember our acronym whole, it's evolution. We're evolving day by day, but we're evolving in growth, we're evolving in wholeness, we're evolving in becoming better people, better versions of ourselves, becoming to be able to function and be in wholesome relationships. So that's what you want to be able to do. You want to observe these patterns, um, and not promises. So you want to reconnect with safe people. Don't trauma bond. Don't connect with somebody on the basis of the pain that you both share, especially when that pain has not been dealt with and has not been healed from. You don't want to bond with people who do that. And then you want to find people who are wholesome, people who can help you come out of that pain and become and strengthen you and help you to become better. Because the truth is, if you isolate yourself, you're only going to strengthen the trauma bonds. So if you feel like, oh no, I just want to be on my own, if you feel like, no, I don't want to, talk to anybody, that's also not going to help you, because then you might find people who are in the same boat with you in terms of pain, and then you're going to trauma bond with them, and the cycle continues. So find people who are safe to be in a relationship with, people who would help you to become better, people who would push you to become better. So one practical step, again, if you find yourself in this situation, and I know this does not apply to everybody, so as many people as this applies to, if you find yourself in a situation like this, one practical step this week, as we go into a new week, today is Sunday, tomorrow is Monday. From tomorrow, make a list of repeated unhealthy patterns you keep excusing in your friendships, in your relationships, even with your colleagues. a list of repeated unhealthy patterns, you know, not just words, not words, but patterns, things you know that this person does repeatedly, and it has become an unhealthy pattern to you in the sense of your relationship or your friendship. You see that it's unhealthy, but you just decided not to do anything about it. And even this unhealthy pattern, if it comes from you, note them down as well, because then what that means is you can then look at it and address it and give it attention. So you don't want to identify these patterns and not do anything about it. The purpose of identifying the patterns is so that we're able to give it attention. And I'm just going to, talk about one more thing that people could do to be holding on. You see it, but then you don't want to do anything about it. You don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to change it. You just want to hold on to it and feel safe in that space. Is when we talk about waiting for potential. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, technology at its best again. My system just went off, and but yes, it's okay. We're back. Fortunately, I can't continue this on Facebook, but I'll just finish it off here. And yeah, so I would actually leave it at those 2 points, that we've spoken about today. And like I said, fear of being alone. Just to recap, if you experience that fear of being alone, always having an anxious attachment style, wanting to be with someone, feeling like you need to be in a relationship, or you need to have this friend, or you need to have this person around you. If you find yourself in that position, in that situation, I've given a tip that can help you this week. Throughout this week, again, like I said, we're getting into a new week. So start from tomorrow. Get a journal. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, something you can write in your diary. And just for 30 minutes all by yourself, paper and biro, you know, answer the question, what is it that um, I need validation on? What is it that I need people to be able to validate me for? And look inwards. And I know sometimes, we struggle to actually look inwards and introspect and look at what it is that is really going on the inside of us, because we're just afraid to come in contact with it. But we are our best healers. Being able to identify what is going on with you is the best way to find healing. So do that. If you're experiencing the fear of being alone and you just feel like you always need to be with someone. And then the other thing that we looked at were people who trauma bond, who think that they go through an emotional pain, and then they find someone who has gone through a similar pain, and they form some form of affection. It gives them temporary good moments after a period of pain. But this is like, it gives you like an emotional high. Um, and we always know that anything that gives a temporary high, after a while it comes down. And that sets the situation for emotional confusion. It sets a situation for toxic behavior. And then you begin to lose self-esteem over a period of time. You begin to lose yourself, and you begin to wonder what it is that is going on with you. And one tip that I've given for if you find yourself in that position is make a list of repeated unhealthy patterns that you keep excusing. And these patterns, again, like I said, they could be patterns in yourself, patterns that you know you keep repeating over and over again, but they're unhealthy. Or maybe patterns with your in your relationship that keep coming up over and over again, but you just don't want to look at it, you don't want to face it, you don't want to, you excuse it away because you just feel like, I just need to be there, I need to hold on to this. This just feels like a safe space. but you know that it's hurting you more and more as you go along. So I hope I've been able to help one or two people with this. Um, don't hold on. Don't hold on to what you know is not serving you. Don't hold on to those things that are stopping you from being a whole person. Don't hold on to those things that are stunting your growth and stopping you from finding, from becoming, and wanting to get into a relationship where you can be whole and wholesome and have love and evolve and become. So don't hold on to those things, my friends. There are many more things that we hold on to. I've only talked about two today. And these are some of the things that we will be speaking about at our upcoming webinar, because we want to be able to help people form the best form of relationships that they can on this side of heaven, to have beautiful relationships that can lead to beautiful marriages, so that we can have better societies around us. And I really look forward to seeing you all there at the webinar. Again, like I said, that webinar will be in June. I'll be looking at a lot more of these issues um, to be able to help us to become. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I would see you here again on Wednesday, and hopefully, technology will do us one better. Thank you for coming here. It's me, your friend Moduni. I honor you and I love you. Bye for now.